expected to be joined by Benson Opa, Head of Media and Public Affairs, Nigeria Labour Congress. In the meantime, let's hand it over to Dr. Sam Amadi, who is with us here in the studio. Rise Analyst, thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you. Now, when you hear from the Commissioner of Police in Imo State there, asking what exactly is Ajaero doing in Owerri, and then all of
the Imo State government spokesperson.
Yes, yeah. Asking what Ajaero was doing in Owerri. What does that even say to you?
I think,
especially when you see all that's that's happened to him.
I think if we do a structural analysis of the statement put out by the state government, it's self-indicting. So you're asking a Nigerian citizen, a leader of the Nigerian workers, NLC, what he's doing in a state where you have an industrial dispute. So first, that's self-indicting. So basically, hey, Ajaero, why did you come to Imo? That's why you got beaten up. They are saying we're not responsible. And they're saying, why is he here? And therefore, contravening the order they claim, and therefore receiving this severe consequence. So that statement shows that the Imo State government was the one that attacked Ajaero, because they said, you shouldn't have been here. This NLC has pulled out of a strike. Where are you anymore? And again, he was arrested. This happened at the NLC office. So it's clear. Now the police says that this is not we're not responsible. Our job was protective custody. It's incidental that the police was there when this happened. Again, the case of Nosonko, a journalist too, who was also beaten up by a special group of police officers at Tiger Base. That's a special Tiger Base in the government house. Now, many people have talked about, the Labour candidate has talked about it, many of them have talked about it as this preferential treatment of the Nigerian police towards the government of Hope Uzodinma. Again, this is a candidate who ran for election in November 9, November 11. And the Nigerian police deemed it fit, reasonable, rational for the IG to say the police should hold a retreat, dine with the candidate in an election. In other words, communicating that the police belongs to this candidate in this election. I mean, there are certain things that are not done anywhere. First,
but it must be said it's not the first time the police
are actually
having a retreat there in Imo State. Yes,
everything goes Imo. Everything police is Imo. Last year was Imo. The retreat was Imo. The Commissioner of Police, all the political parties have said, we want to remove this guy from this place. Now, this election, don't forget, the context of all this, that Imo is explosive. This is a place where a Supreme Court judgment presumably escalated, aggravated security concern. Imo is now the most terrorized, if you like, state in the southeast, and arguably across the country. You have an election that you have pitted against very fierce opponents. The work of the police, even if this was planned already, should have been, we're not going to Imo now. I mean, November is off. By December, you hold a retreat. You go there with all the brass, and then we take, the point about election is, look, neutrality. The police plays a critical role in elections. The police chiefs are there having a special guest of honor as a candidate who delivers a speech. They wine and dine today. That is elementary irresponsibility. You have to say, we withdraw. This election, this is about perception. And again, this is also the same police, the police commissioner, people have written so much about how the police have been used to terrorize opponents. True or false? Once it's allegation, the police would have done a strategic go back. It's also incidental that Ajaero led a protest here in Abuja against the federal government. Nobody was arrested, nobody was beaten. Now, the only place that Ajaero got beaten up, the NLS president, is in Imo State, where the police hierarchy, the same day they are meeting and whining with one of the candidates, the same day the NLC president was beaten up. So the statement by the Imo State government is self-incriminating. Why did you come here? The people said they don't want to. You came here. That's why you got this consequence. The police says, well, we took him, I mean, typical of police. We took him on
to protect him.
Protect him from who? Who did they arrest? If a citizen was physically assaulted.
I think
this
is a bitter one for the police to really come clean on
Absolutely.
this. Why we wait for the police to really expatiate on this? Because Joe Ajaero has said that he was beaten while he was arrested. He didn't say he was beaten before he was arrested.
Absolutely.
To show that he was being protected. Now, let's quickly go to Benson Upah, and the voice you hear will be that of Benson Upah, who is the head of Media and Public Affairs. Benson, good to know that you are able to join us now. This is one bad one in the history of the country and in the history of the NLC. Let us in on what exactly you've been able to gather so far. How safe is Ajaero at the moment?
Yeah, of course, I cannot vouch for his safety. Of course, after the experience he has had, you could imagine his a psychological state and physical state at this moment. It's been a horrible experience, horrendous experience. We never had this under the military, but then when you have bloodthirsty tyrants, you know that when.
Well, I think we lost that. Actually, the connection to Benson Upah is actually shaky and very bad. We decided to still give it a shot to hear from a senior member of the NLC. We'll just give it another shot. Benson, we understand that you're in a very bad network area. Go ahead, please, quickly. Let's make this short and come back to Sam Amadi.
Okay, so as I was saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Go right ahead, please. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, fine. I said that it's been a horrible experience. We never had this kind of thing, even under soldiers, and I find it quite amusing that that Ajaero broke a court order. It is completely false because our counsel was in court last week, and this matter was adjourned to this Friday. So when did that court sit? When did they issue this order, and from where? And by which means, was it a motion ex parte or was it by application? So you see, look, we are in trouble. Let me tell you, we are in trouble when the institutions of state that are supposed to check excesses collude and collaborate with the excesses of the executive. Certainly, we are in trouble. You understand? So, we are not aware of any court order. None was served on us. And as I said, our lawyer was in court last week, and this matter was adjourned to this Friday. So, I also find quite insulting to our intellect. The press statement issued by the police command here in Imo State, and Professor Amadi has spoken quite eloquently to this. But then the police will always, in fact, corrupt police officers will always meet their Waterloo. If not now, tomorrow. If not by man, but by God.
Well,
can you hear me?
Yes. The police actually say they took the labor leader in for his own good, away from any danger. And the Imo State government too has said it has no hands in his predicament. Let me play the devil's advocate. The question that's been asked: what exactly or why is Ajaero in Owerri? 10 or so days to the governorship election?
You see, that is a ridiculous question. For 42 months, 44 months, workers and pensioners in Imo State have not been paid. Do you understand? The government has serially observed in breach the agreement it reached with organized labor. And some of that agreement dating back as 2021. Okay? So, in light of this, the president of NLC has a moral obligation, has a duty, a judicial duty, if you like, to be in Owerri to speak for and on behalf of these defenseless workers. They have been, in fact, they have been browbeaten, they have been beaten to a submission, scared, intimidated. In fact, as we're in Owerri here, in fact, we found it amusing that only one person's poster for an election that is, I mean, that's coming how many days from now? We see just one poster. I mean, one person's poster. That tells you the level of intolerance. I mean, the level of hideous crime going on in this state under the name of our governance. This is not acceptable, and this is not good for this country. And if all of us turn a blind eye and say, well, I am not Joe Ajaero, I will tell you about the poem that when they came for the Jew, I said I was not a Jew. When they came for the teacher, I said I was not a teacher. I tell you this. So this is an insult to all of us. It's an insult to the people of Imo State. It is an aberration of democracy.
Okay,
and Nigeria should not be happy flaunting this kind of credentials.
Benson Upa, I would like to thank you, and you've said that much because that's the whole essence of having this conversation. No one is trying to sweep this under the carpet. I bring this back to you, Sam, Amadi. This is about the police. Now, let's wrap up and talk about how this can be remedied. Whether we like it or not, we have an Inspector General of Police. So the CP Lake, Owerri, Imo State. And come to think of it, Joe Ajaero that's his home state.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So he's not protected even by his home state, the police, and even the government. Yeah. So let's talk about how we can solve this. The culprits.
Personally, as Director of Abuja School, I've written to the National Security Advisor last week saying two things. Imo would be a devastated battlefield if you don't remove the Commissioner of Police. Last election, all the party says, this is the guy who enabled manipulation. True or false? Allegation. Second, the INEC lady, they have written petition, protested. Now, Imo is a sieged place. The Tiger set force in the government house with the aid of the governor called Chinasa. People keep reporting about being bullied, harassed, beaten, Ebubago killed. Why should the government, the National Security Advisor knows about this, why should the IG, first, why should you hold a retreat for the police command in Imo subject to election? Two, why can't you transfer this Commissioner of Police? And I give a prediction. If this continues, the election on November 11 will be terrible, and Imolites will hold the federal government responsible, will hold the IG responsible, will hold the INEC people responsible, because you cannot see issues that can easily be dealt with. Do it. Get this guy out, get somebody in. Why should you foster a sense of this level of tragedy? And like I said, Ajaero has led, we don't need to agree with the protest. Yeah. The courts can determine the validity of it. Even if he disobeyed the court order, the property, the court can issue a bench warrant, get him arrested. He's not above the law. But when you now send somebody who commands the police to act, and the police goes back and say, we took him into custody. Okay, who are those people who did the beating? Yeah. Were they arrests? Do you have incident report around who did what? So Ajaero says, I was arrested before I was beaten. And we know from experiences, anecdotes of those who have got this experience, that they will come there and he was even lucky to be alive. So Imo has now become a place, we kill police officers, we kill soldiers, you kill citizens, all because of election. Imo was the most peaceful place before 2020. Very so quickly. I hold responsible the Superintendent of Police. I have written personally to the NSA. Remove what will cause a collapse of rule of law. You're going to an election that is very high profile. Why should the police go and live in Imo to give an endorsement and create a sense of hope owns Nigerian police? And that is the language in town. That's not good.
This might be an anticlimax, but let's look at the label. We're told that the NLC chapter in Imo State actually pulled out of any planned strike or protest. Is there an attempt to break NLC, whether at the state level or at the federal level?
To be frank,
what does that mean?
Government tries to break NLC, and I don't blame government too much. But in Imo, what has happened is they did election, and government does not. Government wants to have a particular person. Now, if the NLC is not legitimate,
allegedly,
yes. If the NLC is not strong, what do? Allow it to play out. They call a strike, and they fail woefully. I mean, the answer to a bad strike is failure. The answer to inappropriate strike is not arrest and beating up. So if Ajaero's NLC is not powerful, or the local guys say we don't give it up, Ajaero has no capacity to force, beat, keep people. They have no militia.
Well, I think
so it's the state that has obligation to be tolerant.
Dr. Amadi, I don't mean to cut you, but we're out of time.
Sure.
The good thing here is that the police and the authorities, those you've written and those we've actually spoken about here, will weigh in on this. We'd like to thank you for your time, Benson Upah and Dr. Sam Amadi.